Welcome back to the fall of Afghanistan and the Biden administration, part two. Okay, these are my predictions on what's going to be happening. One, after we leave the country, pretty much everybody under the age of 30, possibly a little younger, maybe a little older, will probably either be killed or imprisoned because they pretty much grew up without the Taliban, so they have a taste of somewhat freedom. To the Taliban, that they will be a potential threat. Okay, that is obvious. So you'd want to get rid of any possible threats right away. So that's what they're going to probably do. Two, if we're not out by August 31st, which I don't see that happening without leaving people behind, they will most likely attack the airport, destroy the airport. And seeing Biden had closed the military airport, we will have no real air support. Our soldiers will be sitting ducks. The Afghan people will be sitting ducks. They're in one location. They have our weapons now. They could take out that location. Taliban knows it. Our administration, Biden's administration, knows it. And it's all just a big clusterfuck, really. A kid could have planned this out much better than Biden's administration did. Okay? But then again, look who's giving Biden advice. Secretary of Defense, idiot. And the top general. Apparently it wasn't in his White Rage book that he tries to force everybody to read. Okay, so check out this video of the Secretary of Defense and our top general. Okay?
And I'd like for both of you to answer. It seems like, I know we keep harping on the same thing, but it feels like the video is not matching the audio right now. It seems to me like barring a lobotomy by the Taliban, you have three pathways ahead of you. One, you can expand the perimeter and establish a corridor into Kabul to get our Afghan allies out. Two, you can extend the August 31st deadline of withdrawing. Or three, you can just leave the tens of thousands of Afghans who've helped us over the past 20 years behind. Which one is it going to be?
Well, first of all, as I said, Helene, we're going to evacuate everybody that we can physically possibly evacuate, and we'll conduct this process for as long as we possibly can. We will continue to deconflict issues with the Taliban, and we will stay focused on securing the airfield. We cannot afford to either not defend that airfield or not have an airfield that's secure, where we have hundreds or thousands of civilians that can access the airfield at will and put our forces at risk.
But that doesn't answer the question. I mean, you're still saying you're focused on the airfield. These people can't get into the airfield.
Well, we're going to do everything we can to continue to try to deconflict and create passageways for them to get to the airfield. I don't have the capability to go out and extend operations currently into Kabul. And where do you take that? I mean, how far can you extend into Kabul? You know, and how long does it take to flow those forces in to be able to do that?
So it sounds like you're saying this depends on diplomacy with the Taliban. That's it. That's our only option, is getting them to agree to do this.
Well, let me add something here, Helene. We got a couple entry control points set up, a north one, east one, and a third one at Abbey Gate. They're currently manned with consular officers, Marines. This is all part of the perimeter. Messages have gone out by various means of communication from the State Department to American citizens and others, and they're being told to go to those gates. Right now, we're processing at about I think the last report was about 120, 130 an hour, something like that at the north, and about 340, 350 an hour, something like that at the south gate. So right now, there's a steady flow of people. Now, as that goes on, I think those numbers will continue to grow, and as those messages go out. And I would tell you that for the American citizens, passport holders, the Taliban and the State Department are working on I got it, but they're working on a facilitation measure. So those numbers are likely to grow. For the others, State Department is still working through exactly getting the procedures for
Those two guys, okay, they literally look like their first day of school. It's pathetic. And these people are giving Biden advice. Mind you, Biden's a moron and an idiot to begin with. Okay, and then you have these guys giving them the advice. It's really pathetic. So, pretty much, how it's all going to come down to is the Biden administration is going to wheel and deal with the Taliban, beg them to extend it, offer them pretty much who God knows what. Hell, CIA director had secretly met with the Taliban. What kind of stuff could he possibly offer them to possibly extend, the August 31st deadline? The only thing I can think of are spies. He can give them some names of people that they are looking for. Not that he is, okay, mind you, but that's all I can think of he can give them. Or give them spy equipment, which they could easily get from China anyways. So let's see. We're dealing with the Taliban to get everybody out, when in all actuality we should just be telling the Taliban if we need to extend it, we're going to extend it. If we don't get all our people out, the people who helped us, our allies, we'll carpet bomb their whole damn city. There won't be a cave for them to even hide in. We will show them the full extent of our military force. Not just a partial, but the full extent. Okay, and anyways, once we're out of there, it's a breeding ground for terrorists. We'll have no idea how big the terrorist groups are getting, because we have no people on the ground in Afghanistan. Pakistan's shutting our air bases down there, so we'll have no air support whatsoever to take out any terrorist organization that's in there. So let's see how it has all come down. Okay. 1. Biden closed our pipeline down. Just follow me, okay? He closed our pipeline down. Our gas prices skyrocket. He okayed Russia to open up a pipeline. So mostly all of Europe's going to be dependent on Russia for fuel because of their pipeline. He hastily left Afghanistan by first shutting down our air base. So we have no air support whatsoever. Withdrawing mostly all of our troops. Then was worrying about the people, which then he had to bring back, almost 5,000 plus soldiers to protect the airfield to get these people out. And now that we're leaving Afghanistan, we're pretty much handing that over to China, Biden's other friend. So he's helped Russia, China, the Taliban. And helping the Taliban, he's helped Al Qaeda, ISIS. And let's see, What else has he done as a president? Oh, yeah. His last interview. Uh, the interviewer mentioned the horrible scene of the people falling out of from the plane to their deaths, the overcrowding in the plane, and what was his comment? Oh, that was 4 or 5 days ago. In other words, like, it doesn't matter now. That's ancient history. And after, actually, it was 2 days ago when he said it. That's like the black Americans, African Americans, complaining about slavery. Oh, that was 150 plus years ago. That's ancient history. Don't even worry about it now. You know, almost the same concept. And then in his meeting with the press, he stated, "We've all seen the horrible pictures and all that." His first reaction wasn't, "Oh, that's horrible." He said, "Oh, that was 4 or 5 days ago." So we all know where his mentality is. He's very heartless. I think the only person he's ever loved is his son that died. I think after his son died, he didn't just give a fuck anymore. He cares about his other son, yes, but his other son's a screw up. But his other son, Hunter Biden, has a quality Joe Biden doesn't have. He's actually more honest than Joe. Actually, Joe can learn something from Hunter Biden. Be more a little honest, okay? Because when you keep lying, you start tripping over your lies. And at least Hunter Biden doesn't have to worry about tripping over his lies. He just basically says it. You know, like the laptop. I don't know if that's my laptop. Didn't deny it. He just said he didn't know. Okay, so I want you to check out this next video real quick, and I will get right back.
Was the intelligence wrong, or did you downplay it?
There was no consensus. You go back and look at the intelligence reports. They said that it was more likely to be sometime by the end of the year.
You didn't put a timeline out when you said it was highly unlikely. You just said flat out it's highly unlikely the Taliban would take over.
Yeah. Well, the question was whether or not the idea that the Taliban would take over was premised on the notion that somehow the 300,000 troops we had trained and equipped was going to just collapse. They were going to give up. I don't think anybody anticipated that.
Senator McConnell said it was predictable the Taliban was going to take over.
Well, by the end of the year, it said that was a real possibility. But no one said it was going to take over then when it was being asked.
When you look at what's happened over the last week, was it a failure of intelligence, planning, execution, or judgment?
Look, I don't think it was a failure. Look, it was a simple choice, George. When the Taliban, went back and put it another way, when you had the government of Afghanistan, the leader of that government getting in a plane and taking off and going to another country, when you saw the significant collapse of the Afghan troops we had trained, up to 300,000 of them, just leaving their equipment and taking off, that was, that's what happened. That's simply what happened. So the question was, in the beginning, the threshold question was, do we commit to leave within the time frame was set? We extended it to September 1st. Or do we put significantly more troops in? I hear people say, well, you had 2,500 folks in there and nothing was happening. There wasn't any war. But guess what? The fact was that the reason it wasn't happening is the last president negotiated a year earlier that he'd be out by May 1st and that the return would be no attack on American forces. That's what was done. That's why nothing was happening. But the idea, if I had said, I had a simple choice. If I had said, we're going to stay, then we better be going to put a whole hell of a lot more troops
But
in.
your top military advisors warned against withdrawing on this timeline. They wanted you to keep about 2,500 troops.
No, they didn't. It was split. That wasn't true. That wasn't true.
They didn't tell you that they wanted troops to stay?
No, not in terms of whether we were going to get out in a time frame, all troops. They didn't argue against that.
So no one told your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should just keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can do that. We can continue to do that.
No, no one said that to me that I can recall. Look, George, the reason why it's been stable for a year is because the last president said, we're leaving. And here's the deal I want to make with you, Taliban. We're agreeing to leave if you agree not to attack us between now and the time we leave on May the 1st. Less than 2 months after I was elected to office, I was sworn in, all of a sudden, I have a May 1 deadline. I got one of two choices. Do I say we're staying? And do you think we would not have to put a hell of a lot more troops? We had tens of thousands of troops there before. Tens of thousands. Do you think we would have just said no problem? Don't worry about it. We're not going to attack anybody. We're okay. In the meantime, the Taliban was taking territory all throughout the country in the north and down in the south in the Pashtun area.
So would you have withdrawn troops like this even if President Trump had not made that deal with the Taliban?
I would have tried to figure out how to withdraw those troops, yes. Because look, George, there is no good time to leave Afghanistan. 15 years ago would have been a problem. 15 years from now. The basic choice is, am I going to send your sons and your daughters to war in Afghanistan in perpetuity? No one can name for me a time when this would end. And what constitutes defeat of the Taliban? What constitutes defeat? Would we have left then? Let's say they surrender like before. Okay. Do we leave then? Do you think anybody, the same people who think we should stay, would have said, no, good time to go? We spent over $1 trillion, George. 20 years. There was no good time to leave.
But if there's no good time, if you know you're going to have to leave eventually, why not have everything in place to make sure Americans to get out, to make sure our Afghan allies get out, so we don't have those chaotic scenes in Kabul?
Number one, as you know, the intelligence community did not say back in June or July that in fact this was going to collapse like it did. Number one.
They thought the Taliban would take over, but not this quickly.
But not this quickly, not even close. We had already issued several thousand passports to the SIVs, the people, the translators, when I came into office before we had negotiated getting out at the end of August. Secondly, we're in a position where what we did was took precautions. That's why I authorized that there be 6,000 American troops to flow in to accommodate this exit, number one. And number two, provided all that aircraft in the Gulf to get people out. We pre-positioned all that, anticipated that. Now, granted, it took 2 days to take control of the airport. We have control of the airport now.
Still a lot of pandemonium outside the airport.
Well, there is, but look, but no one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now. We got 1,000, some like 1,200 out yesterday, a couple thousand a day, and it's increasing. We're going to get those people out.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
What I thought was we have to gain control of this. We have to move this more quickly. We have to move in a way in which we can take control of that airport. And we did.
But you don't think this could have been handled? This actually could have been handled better in any way? No mistakes?
No, I don't think it could have been handled in a way that we're going to go back in hindsight and look, but the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happened.
So for you, that was always priced into the decision?
Yes. Now, exactly what happened is not priced in, but I knew that they're going to have an enormous. Look, one of the things we didn't know is what the Taliban would do in terms of trying to keep people from getting out. What they would do.
All troops are supposed to be out by August 31st. Even if Americans and our Afghan allies are still trying to get out, they're going to leave?
We're going to do everything in our power to get all Americans out and our allies out.
Does that,
There you have it. Biden, in his own words, talking about Afghanistan leaving, blaming Trump, of course, because Trump made the deadline, or the timeline, I should say. So he was stuck to that. Mind you, since he's gotten in office, he's just basically turned over everything Trump has done. He could have easily done it with this too. So that's no excuse. And when he was saying about that was 4 or 5 days ago. If you can see his face, you can see there is no care whatsoever in it. He don't give a shit about the Afghanistan people. He doesn't care how much they're going to suffer under the Taliban. Hell, over 10 years ago, when they mentioned to him, well, what about our aid, the people who helped us, our translators, how do we get them out? He said, fuck them. Who cares? Okay? That's Biden, okay? He don't give a shit about anybody but himself. And the only reason he wanted to be president was for the title. There is never, ever, you will ever hear me call him president. Okay? Because for one, he is yet to act like a president. He has no conscience for any human life. He don't give a fuck about Afghanistan's, really. He doesn't. And they're going to really suffer under the Taliban. The ones that aren't killed, female-wise, will be put into sex slaves, forced to marry people that they don't like. And mind you, most of these will be girls that has never really known what it's like to be under the Taliban rule. So his movement of getting everybody out of Afghanistan set the women's right movement back several centuries, pretty much. Okay? And with all that, I'm going to sign off. So I hope you all have a good night. Keep your family safe. Because really, now that we're leaving Afghanistan, shit's going to hit the fan real bad. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. Have a good night. Bye.